Hi everyone, it's Mo. This is B is for Behavior, and today we're talking about outward mindset. You may have heard about it. It's kind of big these days. It's big talk with companies, organizations, and individuals in their home and office. So it was a research that was done by the Arbinger Institute, and they put out a few books. The one book...
Excuse me.
Yes.
Did you do your research?
Well, I went to this training, and this is what they told me. Hi guys, welcome to B is for Behavior. Mo here. Today we're going to be talking about outward mindset. So last week I had the opportunity to go to a training for outward mindset, specifically for leadership and self-deception, which was a book. It's the third book put out by the Arbinger Institute, specifically relating to this inward and outward mindset theory that they're operating on. So I thought it was really interesting, and I kind of wanted to talk about that and relate it back to behavior. This is the book. So this is the one that we talked about at the training, Leadership and Self-Deception. The other two books are called The Anatomy of Peace and The Outward Mindset. So the other one is just specifically called The Outward Mindset. And I haven't actually read much of this book yet, so I'll let you know how that goes as it's going on. We'll do another check-in. But like I said, I did the 2-day training last week. So we had some presenters come in and talk to us about what an inward mindset is versus an outward mindset. I really liked it. I thought that it was really good to reframe kind of the way people are thinking about things. Working in a big organization with lots of people, with lots of different interests, it was very good to hear the language that's being used about, when you're operating on an inward mindset, you see people as obstacles and barriers to your success, and you want to think about how you can, use them really to kind of get your own best gains, and how to shift that to an outward mindset. So thinking about, they're a human being and an individual too, and their interests and motivations are just as important as your own. So I really liked that side of it. I think that bringing that into organizations is going to help a lot with relationships, because in working with people, I do see that relationships really kind of are the foundation of any interaction that you're going to have with people. So really taking the time to develop that relationship is going to be super important. And that's something that we talk about a lot in behavior analysis too, maybe more indirectly though. So I kind of want to tie it back to some of the relationship building techniques that we use when we're talking about behavior and behavior change. Some of those things include using a 5-to-1 ratio for praise versus corrective statements. So when you're interacting with someone, you want to make sure that you're giving them more praise, more positive, more social interactions than you are corrective. So if you're kind of that boss who comes in and is always just coming with correctives, you're quickly going to pair yourself with that aversive stimulus. So your presence is going to, stimulate stress, a stress response in your employees. Same thing if you're a teacher and you're coming into a classroom and you're consistently giving your students corrective feedback instead of that positive feedback, they're going to have a lot of anxiety when you're approaching them. When you enter the classroom, they're going to be worried about what they're doing wrong. And again, you're just kind of starting that stress and anxiety with your students. So you want to be very mindful of that, and you want to make sure that they're pairing you with a positive stimulus instead of an aversive one. Because if you're paired with an aversive stimulus, then they might do things like avoiding or acting out, not doing the work, arguing. So again, 5-to-1 ratio, that's a great way to build that and kind of underlay that relationship. Using students' names in a positive way. So when you're giving them corrective feedback, try to refrain from using their name. I know sometimes you have to get attention and things like that, but it's actually shown that it will help to increase the positive response if you're pairing their name more with a positive statement. So if you're saying like, Jacob, I really like how you are writing your name in the lines. That's great, but you don't want to always say, Jacob, why aren't you, sitting in your chair? Or, Jacob, I need you to line up. It's always paired with that corrective statement, because then their name itself becomes kind of a reprimand. So pairing their name with positives is a good way to build relationship too. Spending some one-on-one time with your students, or your employees. So just taking that time to get to know them, even if it's just for a couple minutes every day where you just check in. Hey, how was your weekend? It's good to see you today. It's really meaningful, and it can help, again, build a relationship. There's actual research that also shows if you spend 10 days in a row for 2 minutes with someone, it can help to kind of build the foundation for that relationship. The research was focused on a classroom setting and a student with problem behavior, and behavior decreasing when that 2 to 10 ratio was used, but it also translates over to other relationships as well. So using some of those things can help to build that positive relationship. And thinking of how this connects to inward versus outward mindset. When you're doing these things and when you're building relationships, you're really taking an outward mindset. You're thinking of people as important and people as having just as much value as you do, and you're putting that relationship first. So that's really going to kind of help to shift the types of communications that you're having with staff or with students. So when you think about, again, thinking about bringing this back to behavior, empathy itself becomes the replacement behavior for seeing people as obstacles or barriers. So this is something that I work on a lot with myself, and working with a diverse population of people. Sometimes people get really frustrated with things that I recommend, and they think that it's a lot of work, or that we're just giving too much extrinsic motivators, and it's going to make the students not as intrinsically motivated by things. And so I have to do a lot of explanation, a lot of teaching, so kind of backing off a little bit and teaching about why this is a validated strategy and how to use extrinsic motivators to build intrinsic motivation. But throughout that process, I'm really thinking of the individual's need. So I'm thinking of their need to learn and not seeing it as an attack. So I think sometimes people get really defensive. Like when I'm recommending strategies, they sometimes get defensive, like I already do that. I've been working really hard and I do this, and that. And it's really not that I'm saying these things aren't already being done, but maybe the quality of them could improve, or maybe we could tweak this, and just that small change could, make such a drastic difference. So I'm really trying to reframe my own thinking and replacing that outward or that inward thinking of, you're in my way, you're an obstacle, to a more outward empathy response. So I'm replacing that inward behavior with an outward behavior of, thinking about that person's need, replacing those, private internal behaviors, those internal thoughts, with something that is more positive or more relationship building. That becomes kind of the replacement behavior. Another foundation of the outward mindset arbinger is that the mindset drives behavior. So I thought that this was a very interesting idea, and I also found it to be very true. I do think that what your mindset is will change how you're reacting to other people. So whatever that mindset may be, you're going into the situation, and maybe you're working with this person who has really been paired with aversives for you, or you don't see any positive outcome. You're going to be inward thinking. You're going to be thinking about how uncomfortable it is for you, or how anxious it's making you. You might make excuses to not interact with that person, avoid that person. So, and those are all inward behaviors as outlined in the book and in the training. So this mindset becomes the motivation to practice the outward behavior. So I do find that to be true. I think that is kind of a motivating operation for all of our behavior, kind of what processes or stimulus have been paired in the past. So it really comes down to relearning and relearning to pair things with positives, even if they have been paired with aversives in the past. it's kind of a different pathway of thinking. So instead of thinking about, the negative things that have come from this person, the situation, this environment, try to find the positive things in it. So, despite the fact that, last time you talked to this person, they yelled at you, and now, you feel very frightened by this person, thinking of what is happening to them. So why would they yell at you when you told them this, feedback? Maybe you told them that they're, performing a skill inadequately. Maybe not in those words, but you told them that. And they started to yell at you or get very angry. Well, try to think about maybe this person sees their work as progress or improvement. Maybe they are working very hard. Maybe they're afraid to try harder because it won't work. So, just trying to think about it from their perspective, put yourself in their shoes, and that can help to, to kind of relearn that response. I found that to be helpful. And again, it's something that I do too. So I think that rolling this out to big companies, industries, I think it really will be beneficial. I think that it will help to, again, build a foundation where people are thinking more about others, and they're thinking about how important it is to impact other lives and not just, act to make their own gains. And it's really a big reframe, and it's kind of an uncomfortable process, I think, for a lot of people, because they have to come outside of their box and think about things that they've been doing to really, cause uncomfortable situations. And at home too, and I think that's kind of where the training got a little personal, and there were people who, had tears shed, and they were sharing really personal stories about, when maybe somebody's mother might be very sick, and they didn't want to go see, their mother because they felt uncomfortable going, or they didn't want to see their mother there that way. But taking a step back and thinking about their mother and how their mother needed them, it did cause some emotions, and understandably so. But I think it's a process that needs to happen. I think that people do need to take, kind of a look at why they're responding in these ways and how they can shift it to be more positive. So in general, I think that it's something we can all benefit from. I like to think of myself as an outward thinker, but there definitely were some things that came up for me too, and things that I could start to process with the training. I encourage everyone to gather information about this, mindset training. I don't know what's offered at various companies, but the book you can get. It's a book that's available on Amazon, so I could put the link for that below. And you can check it out. If you're working with somebody who's really challenging, or in a system that's really challenging, it might be good to do a book study. Like maybe you can have, different members of your work team purchase the book, and you guys can kind of review it together. But it is beneficial, and it is very tied into behavior. It's something that I think behaviorists such as myself have been seeing for a long time, and we know, but maybe we didn't have the explanation that this Arbinger has, where it can reach a lot of people. So I think we can meld those two things together and help to create something that's really functional and healthy. Healthy systems are what lead to change and impact. So that's kind of my review on the outward mindset and the training and the book. So let me know what you think. If you've been through the training, what you have found in doing the training, what you think about my connection with behavior, and more specifically private behavior, so things that we're thinking. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's a very thought-provoking training, and especially for us behaviorists, it definitely gets us thinking. So yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll have continued conversation on this, I'm sure. All right, thanks guys. Have a good week. Bye.